what that is? Discipline. Selfish.
No joke. We're legitimate.
Fucking do this? Then do it. Do it 100%, because I'm trying to.
We recognize that we are limitless.
You gotta be a champion, become a champion, right? Winning is a habit because we create habits that lead to good execution and success.
Hello and welcome to the Coach's Show, episode 12. I'm Ryan Gray, coach of AC Diesel, and I am your solo host tonight. My normal co-host, Mike Bianca, had a family issue that he could not move. So unfortunately, or fortunately, depend on how you look at it, you get to listen to me ramble this entire episode. My guest tonight is Grant Piane, the newest coach of Austin Notorious. Before I get Grant on, just really quickly, I want to run through some of the things that have happened over the last couple of weeks in the league. First, really big news coming out of the X Factor camp with the addition of Axel Gaudin, Ryan Hoskinson from the Killers, and Tim Stetzel from NYX. They did unfortunately lose LJ, who will, I think, is going to end up on the Aftershock roster. He left X Factor to go try out. And that's kind of the next part of the news. So Aftershock just had their tryout weekend before last and had a ton of people there trying out, a lot of big names. Corey Hall, Nick, of course, was there, which is really exciting for him. Anybody who is kind of a fan of his really wants him to end up there. Bringing back Coach Todd Martinez kind of has a 2020 Ironman vibe to it. So it's kind of exciting to see maybe getting that kind of band back together and seeing what they'll be able to do in the sort of the new condition of the league. It was really cold, I heard, in San Antonio. So I'm sure it was difficult with that many guys to keep guys in tempo and rhythm. But yeah, so LJ Paris from X Factor was there. Like I said, Corey Hall. I've heard rumors that potentially A-Rod may come back and play with them. It's going to be really interesting. So that story is kind of developing. We're going to have Todd on the show in a couple of weeks. And so I'm hoping to get Todd Martinez with him so we can get a real picture of what that group is going to look like. Other moves that have kind of occurred in the last couple of weeks, big one for Austin Notorious, and I kind of saved this one right before I brought Grant in. So Maciek Pasternak from Team Verst, who's a Polish team, does really well in NXL Europe. And so when we get Grant in, we'll talk a little bit about how he's going to use Maciek. So without further ado, I will bring him in. Grant, hello.
Hey, Ryan.
So big pickup, man.
Yeah. Maciek, big pickup. We're definitely really excited about it. That's kind of been on the back burner now for a handful of weeks, getting him involved, and we are super excited to have him on the team.
Yeah, I apologize. That was probably my fault that it took a little while for him to get there. I was really trying to make space for him. And unfortunately, we ended up being full. But I'm glad he ended up, in a good place where he'll be able to see Marky quite a bit in Europe. They'll be able to, develop and cultivate that relationship. So I think that's really good. And it's a great pickup for you guys because you really needed that second guy on the Doritos or on the Snake side with the loss of Michael Kovar.
Right. And that was a big thing. I didn't have any really insights on Maciek, and Mark brought that to my attention. He sent me over some clips, let me know kind of what you guys had seen over in Europe with him. And we kind of collectively decided that would be a really big pickup, but that was all driven by Mark for sure.
Yeah, Maciek is very good. He'll fit in well, I think. He's solid, man. He's one of those guys I love because he's also he's a lumberjack, right? He's a legit lumberjack, right? So he has this like very hard life. You know, he's from an incredibly cold part of the world. I just think those guys are a little tougher, you know?
100%. And I'll add to that. I actually created a fitness and accountability chat for the Notorious guys. We added him in there. And I'm not sure if I'm doing the math right on this, but I'm pretty sure he posted up like a 20+ mile run he went on. And he said that was pretty commonplace for him. Again, it's in, different metrics
Kilometers.
there, but yeah, I'm almost certain that it was 20+ is what we all deducted from it. So he's pretty badass.
Yeah, he's a machine. He's a machine. Like, he'll send me sometimes pictures of his watch after he's worked out. And I'm like, good God, man. Like, I work out for 45 minutes in the morning and I'm pretty happy with myself. Like, stop sending me these. You're making me feel bad.
Right.
Well, that's really exciting. And again, a huge addition to the roster. He'll be great. You know, you guys also this season have added Michael Johnson, who played with Austin Notorious in their semi-pro season for a couple of events, and then went away about midway through the year, had some family challenges, and then he went and played with Greenville Growl, I believe, in semi-pro.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, and then brought him back into the groove, into the roster at the beginning of the year. You guys have already had a workout, which is awesome.
Right. And I had actually, so it was kind of MJ's tryout as well as my tryout. We were going to see how I gelled with the guys. MJ came out. We did a scrimmage against X Factor down at X Factor Paintball Park. He absolutely crushed it. He was up in the 50 snake quick. He was really just dominating on all fronts on that snake side. So it's kind of a no-brainer when it came to deciding whether to pull him up to the pro squad or not. So very impressed with what we saw out of him.
He's a good player, and he's only got a bunch of upside. You know, he's got a big ceiling, right, that he's not even begun to touch. So really exciting, right? Have a young guy like that. So let's talk a little bit about, because people may not know who you are. You're new into the pro league for sure. So talk a little bit about how did you get into the coaching side of paintball? Yeah.
So played for a number of years, always at kind of like a divisional D3, D4 type of level. My real entry, so there's two main kind of moments where it became something that I was going to pursue. Number one was Todd Boyer here in Kansas City. He actually had a team, the KC Kings, that he started as a D5 team at the time. And they were going into the championship of the USXBL, having not had a coach all season. So he said, hey, you know, he saw me at the local field one day, saw something in me, said, hey, would you be willing to come down and give this a shot? So that was actually my first swing at it. We went down to Texas, played in the championship, got third place in that event, which resulted in winning the series for the USXBL. And this is 2018, I believe. So that was a big moment, was just having that experience. The next one was I was actually picked up to play for the Phoenix Division All-Stars in an MSXL D3 event. For that, the night before, I might have, gone out a little bit too late. Woke up the next day as their pickup and was not in really condition to play that next morning. So I told them, I said, hey, I have a little bit of experience now with the coaching side. I've had some success there. So I'd love to kind of revert back to a coaching role, as they didn't have a coach. And in that event, we got third place, which was the best that team had done. So that was kind of my entry, was through Todd, as well as that experience, was having a little bit of success there was really exciting.
It's interesting that your alcohol abuse pushed you into coaching. Yeah.
I'm crazy. Like, may or may not have thrown up that morning, I don't know.
Yeah.
So
yeah, sure. Yeah, that's when you need a shower beer. All right. Well, so let's talk about your time with the All-Stars a little bit. So you started coaching them their D2 year?
D4. D4.
D4. Okay.
Yeah.
So you kind of came up for a couple of years with the All-Stars, right? So D4, D3, and then D2. And the team looked like it was on an uptick. They kept getting a little better and a little better and a little better. You guys went into D2 that year and did really well. I think that was 22.
Correct. So we had two. It was actually 21. We had 2 years in D2.
Okay.
And I'll add just not to cut you off, but I'll add just a little bit of context there. We're really big with the All-Stars, really big on organically ranking up. So we never skipped any divisions. We always won out each division before we took the next bite. Just firm believers in not taking a D5 player and throwing them in D2. We wanted to organically grow through the ranks. So we did 2 years in D2 because that first year we fell just short. So we were like, all right, we're not D1 yet. You know, let's take it another year until we actually win the series.
Good move, because in the next year, you guys had a 4th place finish, a 1st place finish, a 2nd place finish, a 3rd place finish, and a 2nd place finish. So made the right call.
Yeah.
Made the right decision there. So you guys were on an uptick, and then before World Cup, is that when your time was done with them?
Yeah. So I went through that whole season, and that year was kind of, I took a really big bite that year. So I was coaching, there's a local field here that Todd runs, KC Sports Complex. I ran the D5 line. We won the series in MSXL. I ran the D4 line, which we were competitive, but we only played maybe 3-4 of the events that year. And then I was running the D2 All-Star line, as well as I did some guest coaching for Punishers, and I want to say another one-off with a St. Louis team as well. So I kind of had my hands full that year. I took on, I think I coached like 15 tournaments that year. So it was a lot for sure. And so that went all the way until right before World Cup. At that point, I said, let me take a step back. Let me focus on the D5 guys, focus on some of these other things, and kind of left it from there.
Okay. Well, during your time you were there, again, the team continued to get better. And then, so you took a year off, right? So last year you didn't coach in the NXL.
Right.
Were you coaching elsewhere?
So, I mean, eventually, as I'm sure you know, I was getting that itch. So I did jump back in. I did one tournament last year. That was it. It was at the EXL in Salina, Kansas. So I coached some buddies of mine in a D4 EXL event. But other than that, completely off the grid.
Wow. All right. And that brings us to now. And so you come back in and you decide for some reason you're just going to jump into the most challenging division in paintball.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you're going to get it, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, and keep in mind, and not to sound, I don't know, not to be cocky, but, I do have a strong foundation. So I've won a D5 series, a D4 series, a D3 series, and a D2 series, minus the last event. So with that, I have a strong foundation. And in all reality, I think this is a great situation. Something I talked about with Mark was, taking a chance on me. I would much prefer to hopscotch from D2 to pro. And I know that goes against the whole methodology of growing organically through each division. Semi-pro is not the place I want to exist. That just seems like kind of a place people go to potentially, I don't know, to potentially get stuck or die. And that's really something that I was eager to get to the pro division. I'm a little sad I don't have that experience, but I feel very confident, ready to just jump right into like you said, the hardest division that in existence.
Yeah, in the world, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, on the bright side for you, there's a great network of professional coaches. They're all really helpful. We share a lot of data back and forth. We help each other with resources quite often. I mean, I was talking to Joey Blute today. I mean, there's a great network of the coaches. We all kind of look out for each other and try to make sure everybody has what they need and those kind of things. I mean, we're competitors, but the reality is we're not in between the nets, right? So we want to see each group do well because it makes us all better, right? So if all of the teams are getting better and we can provide quality stuff from a coaching perspective, number one, it makes us more valuable as coaches, right? And then number two, we all have to continue to improve. If everybody's getting better regularly, the guys at the top can't be comfortable. They got to keep getting better and better and better. So
100%.
You're coming into a very healthy group of coaches. So it's pretty exciting for you. So let's jump into how you connected with Austin Notorious and how did that process work?
Yeah. And one thing I'd like to add before I jump straight into that, to your point about the health of the coaches, one thing that's kind of funny and ironic about all of this is prior to, so years ago, D4, D3 season, I actually had reached out to Mike Bianca, reached out to him. He connected with me through Facebook, gave me some pointers and stuff. I just was asking, hey, how can I be better at this? We're having success, but we're taking the next jump. I'm nervous. Can you help me out? So Joey Blute, Ryan Brand, I don't know if you recall, but I even reached out to you at one point. And mind you, this is me geeking out, reaching out via social media blindly, not necessarily knowing these people, but just knowing their track record. So I reached out to all those guys and they are immediately, and this is me as a D4, D3 coach, and they're immediately willing to offer advice, yourself included. And so, definitely I feel that network. I feel that love. So I'm excited to be in the same arena this time around.
And that's great, right? And that's and that really is kind of a big part of what the show is for, right? Is trying to get all the coaches kind of connected and on the same page, and then also a sharing of ideas, right?
Right.
It just helps us all get better. So let's dive back into how you connected with Austin Notorious, and what did that process look like?
Yeah. So it was actually, I had a few teams reach out to me this off season, everything from lower divisional all the way up to pro. Another team as well as Notorious had reached out, and we were kind of talking about potentially, picking me up. It all kind of sparked behind as far as Notorious goes, there was a post that came up on Facebook. There was a D2 team that was looking for a new coach. I was tagged in the comments, and then through that tag, that connected me with Mark as well as with a few other people. So it's kind of a crazy series of events that connected us. But that got us together. We started talking about my background, some of my goals, and again, Mark taking a chance on me and bringing me down there to be a part of that off-season grind against X Factor. So he said, let's give it a shot. So it all kind of spurred behind kind of a social media buzz that was going on and a couple conversations I was having. My name got thrown into the mix, which was cool.
Yeah, man. Power of social media, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Mark is all over the social media. He is just nonstop.
He's quicker than most people I know.
Yeah, he's on it. So what does your role look like? So you've had now kind of a workout with the guys, which was also, as you mentioned, sort of your tryout. What are your roles and responsibilities for 2024? Like, for example, are you in charge of like roster decisions, cuts, lineups? Like what does that look like for you as far as Austin Notorious goes?
Yeah. So as of now, because I don't have as much familiarity with the guys and with all of that, really the managerial side, I'd say, is mostly being powered by Mark. However, he has been reaching out to me as far as running some of the guys by me as, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? So we work pretty closely as far as some of the decisions and stuff, but that would mostly divert to Mark as far as defer to Mark as far as some of those type of decisions. I'd say my role is pretty cut and dry as far as X's and O's, the lines that are going to be going out there, the plays we're going to be running, and then really the scouting piece as well. So scouting our opponents. So some of those coaching roles are going to be on my shoulders. And then I'd say some of the managerial stuff I'm going to help out with, but that's really going to mostly defer to Mark.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what does the roster look like? We keep getting messages. People still send me messages and say, hey, what's going on with Notorious? What's the roster? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not there. I have no idea what the roster looks like. So there's a lot of rumblings about Archie potentially only playing 1 or 2 events. Like at first he wasn't playing any. And then now it looks like he's going to play a couple. And then there were rumblings that, Paul may only play 1 or 2 events. So like, what is the roster and what's going on over there?
Yeah. So, and mind you, I'm still keeping up to speed with all this. I'm in all their inboxes, so I'm trying to make sure we're on the same page. And we've heard some of those same rumblings as well. But as far as right now, where we stand, we have Paul is definitely going to be involved, Archie, ABJ, and then as you mentioned earlier, MJ, as well as Pasternak. And then we are going to have Markey, of course, Ty Bateman, Logan Dyer, Hayden Burgess, and Jared Sherman. That's our 9 as it stands.
So no Logan Dyer?
No, I think I mentioned Logan.
Oh,
or I meant to.
Ty, Logan, Hayden. Okay. And so ABJ, you have him for the whole year?
So how I understand it is I was told that guaranteed 3, possibly 4 events, possibly the whole season. So that's where I'm like,
very cool.
Yeah. I think we're just going to press him to be a part of the entire season.
Well, I mean, the man does have a child coming. So
right.
Yeah, you gotta give the man some grace. Well, that's really exciting because ABJ really he came alive a little bit last year, especially toward the end of the season where his timing was getting a lot better and he was really beginning to understand the speed of the game. And it was really sad kind of at World Cup when he said, hey, I'm probably not going to play next year because of, my wife is expecting. And it was really sad. Like, even though I kind of knew I was going away, it was still, as a fan of his, I was sad, right? Like he is another one kind of like MJ who really just has a tremendous amount of upside, right?
100%.
He also hasn't scratched the surface. So that's great. Well, you do have a roster. Very cool. Any looking at making any additions?
Yeah, so I'm not going to name any names. I believe we are looking for one more body, and there's a good, I'd say, 5 to 6 guys that Mark has sent over to me. So we've definitely been evaluating, looking at picking up one of those guys. So yeah, we're definitely still trying to plug a couple holes here and there, or a hole here or there, but that's kind of where we're at.
Is there a certain role you're looking for?
So right now it's fluid, but what we've been looking at is some of the 1-2 punch. So that's kind of where Magic came in, was being that number 2 on the snake side, right? Mm-hmm. We have Logan Dyer, we have ABJ, we have MJ, right? So those are kind of our missiles over there. And then Magic makes more sense as that number 2 on the side to kind of clean things up. Mm-hmm. I believe we were looking at the same type of a role in the 3/middle position. So it's like
Yeah.
something to complement what Markey does, right? So he maybe hangs out in the 3, punches through the middle.
Pretty fantastic season. It seems like everything is fluid this year. Nothing is set in stone. I guess nothing will be set in stone until we get to the first event of the year.
Right.
And then hopefully it's all done. So
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I don't know. You're good.
I was going to say, I also saw Silos down there.
I saw that. Yeah, saw that. There was again, there was a lot of names down there. It was weird, but also exciting, right? Like I love that Todd is coming in and kind of creating waves, but we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. Again,
being a Midwest guy, it's exciting for me too.
I've heard a little bit about what the roster may look like, but I don't know for sure.
I got some insider information. I might have a pretty clear I'm playing. I've heard things, but I think my understanding is as clear as yours. So
yeah. All right. So let's just dive right in. So what are the goals for 2024 for the team?
Yeah. So for Notorious, I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. We're looking for, and I actually have this little, I'm a big pen and paper guy. I got this little stat sheet. Yeah. I think the blur's probably cutting it out, but couple of things I identified. So like number one goal, and again, cut and dry, is Sunday. We want to be a Sunday team. We want to be a Sunday contender consistently. And we're not just saying that because it sounds fun and nice. I really crunched down the numbers, and that's what I'm alluding to here. Pretty much what it boils down to is being a 500 team, and we're talking on the season points. Mm-hmm. Being a 500 team breaks you into that Sunday, basically guaranteed based on the numbers here, club, right? So Notorious fell short of that. I'll point out the team that got relegated was the Saints. Spread 23-94, right? Not a great spread.
Yeah.
Jump up to Notorious 55-86. Not a great spread either. However, quite a big difference there. So I'm looking at it, and getting that to a 500 number all in will break into, based on all 20 teams, breaks you into the 11-10 spot, which guarantees you Sunday. So that's kind of the bigger goal, Sunday every event, the smaller goal, 500 record, if not better, right? So that's kind of the baseline is 500 is what we're shooting for. And that's I mean, intentional with every point, every match. This is where we're trying to get. And we know the math. We know this is where we need to land, and that will get us to the bigger goal of Sunday every single event. And then, as you know, Sundays, it's its own tournament.
Yeah, starts anew for sure.
Right.
Starts anew. Okay. Well, so you mentioned your goals, which gives you your pathway, right? As far as like, here's our destination. So how do we get there? What's your plan from the first time? Kind of now you've had an opportunity to see him. I assume you guys will get together. When's the first time you'll have your entire squad together?
Yeah, so that's coming up here beginning of February. I believe it's the February, whatever that first weekend is in February. We'll be down in Texas, February 3rd. Yep. We'll be down in Texas for that. That's when we should have the entire band together. And that's going to be really kind of that breakthrough moment where we're able to see all these pieces moving at once, see how everything fits. The biggest thing, and it kind of touching on, sorry, I got a thing falling off here. Biggest thing touching on the direction of the team, right? One thing I identified through the practice, and I understand this is something that you were doing pretty extensively with the guys last year. So something I'm going to piggyback and just pick right back up on is those situational type of drills. So really just putting them in as many situations. So most likely starting in bunker. You guys have 1 minute, you have 4, they have 3, and we just kind of run through that as much as possible. That's the biggest area I think that we could probably get the most out of, would be just running those situational in bunker type of drills as much as possible. I think that's going to help us significantly.
For sure. Yeah. Great idea. I mean, they're off the break, they're good. You know, the majority of the time they were in positions to win the game in the first 30 seconds, and they fell apart in the mid game. It was, as a coach, it just makes you want to beat your head against the wall. You know, but the reality is it was their freshman season, right? Now they got a year under their belt. They've got more in the filing cabinet, if you will, of experience that they can go back and touch moments over the last couple of seasons. They can touch a few moments, right? So that as they get more seasoned and get put in really uncomfortable situations like you're going to put them in, yeah, they certainly should improve with those things. So yeah, it's a good idea. So you're going to have Magic on the 3rd and 4th?
Correct. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. So you'll get everybody together. You'll start putting your kind of, as Joey Blue says, aces in their places. And then are you practicing another team, or that's fully in squad?
How I understand it is fully in squad.
Great. Yeah, good idea. So once you get that practice kind of done going into the first event, where you have Tampa Bay Damage, Infamous, the New Orleans Hurricanes, and the newly rebuilt Los Angeles Ironmen, what's kind of that like? So you get the layout, you start that process. What is the communication you're sharing with the team about, first of all, your group, and then second, here's why our focus is what it is? What kind of things are you telling them?
Yeah. So and this kind of summarizes, I think, my entire philosophy, coming from the All-Stars and all of that, coming into this brand new environment, brand new squad.
Yeah.
There's a handful of things we're going to be doing differently. I'm trying to do some unconventional type of things with the guys. That started, and it just started this week with some assigned reading. Sounds goofy, but I think it's important.
Sure.
One thing we picked up off of Grayson is going to be some type of meditation, pre-practice, pre-point, team stretches, team running, the fitness and accountability chat. So I'm kind of just dumping all the different things that we're doing, but going into the initial thing, I plan to get them on a Zoom style call and go through Guns Up together from remote and kind of walk through all of that. And then really from there, and this is something that I've been big on all the way through, is really intentional, lengthy breakdowns to each person, and lengthy in a good way, where we're going through every single thing with them. So like, I want them to know my expectation going into our practice, going into the event, what I think they're doing well, areas of improvement. I mean, and this can be summarized, you know, in a couple paragraphs out to each person individually. And I just like to have that type of touch with them where they know that I'm really am paying attention. I do have a vision for how we can get to our goals. And then really just breaking that down for them on an individual level. And then tying that all together with the team. So those are some of the things we're going to be doing prior to to the event.
That's a great idea. Yeah. So you're not only coaching the group, but you're helping coach each individual kind of away, right? So when you talk about using guns up, you're going to be doing that with each individual, or that'll be a group thing?
Both.
Okay.
Both.
And so when you're walking a player with guns up, like what kind of things are you pointing out to the player as you're kind of navigating through different run spaces and getting through different spots on the field?
Yeah, so it's going to come down to like roles, where I think their role fits on this layout. And then I want to get it to a place, and this is the individual, communication that we're having. I want to get to a place where they are in a bunker. We're looking at it together on there, and we're identifying, here's where your shots are, right? On the inside, the outside. Now here, what's your next most realistic move from here, right?
Yeah.
Taking that all the way through every progression of here's where you're most likely, here's the spots where you're going to be, here's where your shots are from those spots, and then here's what your next move is going to look like, and then the reason behind that. So are we filling from God to the corner? Are we filling from God to the snake? And then why are we doing that? Based on what your shots are and where everything shakes out. So
sure,
going through those progressions with them, I in a perfect world, I'm getting them to a place where they're blindfolded and I'm asking them, what do you have from S1? And they tell me, right? And if we can get it to that, I think that would really give us a leg up going into the kind of limited practice that we have being spread all across the world at this point. And then, some of that preparation. So that's what I'm going to be going through, would be shots, moves, primary bunkers, and then taking that to the next level would be based on the kind of plays that we have in mind. Who are you most likely immediately connecting with based on if you're here and we're running play A, who's going to be the next person or persons that you're going to be immediately connecting with?
Yeah, it's great. And they need that, right? Like young players, and I hope young coaches are listening, who are listening to this, picked up on that. Young players, they need to have a better understanding of each spot and their progression in each place. They need that, like more one-on-one things that you're doing. And that's great. I kind of did some of those things last year. I'd make them like a list, like, hey, when you get here, these are your progressions. When you get here, these are your progressions. I don't love guns up. That's why I didn't really use it. But I think it's awesome when people can use it that have a better understanding probably of how to use it than I always. When I try to use it, like my camera always ends up way up here and then or way down here. And then I'm way over there. And I get frustrated. I'm just like, forget it. And I end up closing it out. So,
right.
Yeah. So you're probably better with technology than I. So you kind of talked a little bit like, hey, here's sort of my coaching philosophy, but what would you consider to be your coaching style? Yeah.
So as far as my style, very analytical. Anyone that knows me on a personal level, like again, not trying to sound boisterous or anything, I'm definitely like a human calculator, especially within the confines of paintball, being 5-on-5, 15-minute match, 900 seconds. Like the numbers are pretty easy to work within, for paintball. So definitely a human calculator on that, extremely analytical, mathematical, big on probabilities, right? So establishing what's the most probable spots, just all of the analytical side. I'd say that's majority of what I bring. Aside from that, on a personal, professional level, I'm in sales. So I'm good at reading people. And so with that, I bring the kind of cyborg analytical side. And then there's the other hand where it's the personal human touch, where I actually read my players and make decisions on the fly as far as who's hot, who needs to go back out there, and really just kind of understanding each person on a personal level, and then combining that. So you put the computer machine cyborg with the human, and it works out to kind of, I guess, how I'd summarize how I operate.
Well, if you're those things, you should fit right in here. If that's real and not, bullshit, you're going to fit right in. There's a lot of, especially the data-driven stuff. There's a lot of us who, geek out over data, right?
Mhm.
And it's really important. So speaking about data, like how do you, first, how do you track what you're wanting to track? And then how do you use it?
Yeah. So and mind you, I think I could come up with a much more efficient way of doing what I do, but how I do it now is I'm old school, and with my job as well. Some guys can type notes while they're talking to a prospect or a client. I write everything.
Sure.
So how I do it now is I have a layout sheet, and this is nothing, revolutionary, but the 1.1, so you put a 1 and then an arrow where they're shooting and that type of thing. So I have my basic layout sheet, and it flips from side to side. What I am doing on that sheet, I'm establishing where they're going. I'm establishing where they're shooting, and then I'm establishing how they went about going there. So like if they run deep, I try to track that with like a line where I draw like he's running the baseline, or he went straight to at this point. So without getting the sheet too convoluted, I try to track that through that. But then this all kind of tie together. I also have a little notepad next to it. And that notepad, that's like the bread and butter. So that's where and again, I could come up with a much more efficient way of doing this, but
we've given them away. There's like 5 on our social media of like spreadsheets that you can use to do exactly what you're doing in a much cleaner way.
I know. And I saw the Paintball Fit coaches segment. He showed a very clean way. I saw yours. I've seen Bianca's. I'm aware. But then stick with me on the spiral notebook. That's where, again, not efficient, but that's where I really get down to like some very specific details. And if you ever see me going through this process, you might see me like manically writing on that pad. But
because you got like 15 seconds to do all that.
I know, and it's limited. But mind you, like I put Gray number 3, and I put a star next to you. That means you're the all-star. You're the guy. You're the guy. Because typically there's 3 role players, 1 or 2 guys who are actually going out there, getting it done, making the moves, getting the kills. So I can summarize it by just a star. I can put slow next to a guy, and I will write that with the intention of, why are they sending this guy to this faraway land, this faraway spot, when he does not have the wheels to do it? Like there's some false understanding there. He's got a little false confidence. So like with that pad, I'm writing down all these things, and you'd look at it. I think most people look at it cross-eyed and be lost as far as what does this even say? But those are the things I'm picking up on is just tendencies that I see. Who's the all-star, who's running, kind of, and I'll elaborate on the lines that are on the other sheet. I'll write down number 7 deep, he runs the baseline, what have you. And that's a big thing. And that's where I think it applies, is when you're actively watching, as you can pick up on these type of things with players. So and that, one step further on that, when we were at the Santa X Factor scrimmage in the off season here, one thing I noticed, I don't want to give this away to him, but Cole Roberts, for example, there was a crucial bunker. There's a wedge right up the middle, and he was going to it every single point. He had 2 options. He could either shoot the cross for the D side, and he could hold us off over there, or he could shoot heads up for the snake side, the snake gap, and hold us that way. If he had his foot on the box pointing where his left, well, he was on that side, but based on which side he was on, where his inside foot was pointing was which way he was going to pull up and he was going to commit to. And it's just small things like that. I just noticed it after watching 50 points of him doing it, that that's what that meant. So that's what this pad's for, is Colt Roberts' toe means something. for example.
I love it. So, and that's, I want to be clear too. I'm not, if what you do works for you, that's all that matters, right? Like we all do it in a little bit different way. There are a lot of coaches now who've kind of adopted SK's, you know, kind of spreadsheet form in one way or another. But the reality is it doesn't matter. If it works for you, that's what you should do. So, okay. So you get all this intel, that you have scratched onto your notepad and your layout forms. And then you compile all that information, I assume. And then what? Now what?
Yeah. So based on that, that's where I'm coming up with the probability of where is the opponent most likely going, right? So I'm tracking time. I'm tracking the situation because that matters. Like when they're up by 2, they tend to default to this. So I'm going to track all of that. And then I'm going to provide that intel for the guys as much as I don't want to overwhelm them with like all this stuff going on in our brains. So I want to take that, have kind of an idea, you know, a sheet here of like what is most likely going to happen based on the situation. And then I'm going to call my plays accordingly to that. One other big piece of this, and this is something that I don't know that I've seen included on a bunch of the spreadsheets and stuff, but it's the win percentage for my guys. So the better job I can do of tracking, like, so I write down who played what, like what the line was, if we won or lost, and then taking those numbers. And mind you, with paintball, one thing I've realized is because things aren't necessarily concrete, it's about large group data. So if I can get like the more points I can get, that really will steer me, even if there's a variance of 5% here or there, whatever. If I get enough points and enough data, you know, the numbers won't lie at that point. So getting that win percentage for my guys, and then having that understanding of, okay, X player has a 65% win rate and he's been thrown in 100 different scenarios. Doesn't matter the player, whatever. That guy individual has 65% win rate. So that's a big one for me when deciding lines and what makes sense for my guys, and then couple that with the mess of notes for the opponent that I'm crunching. That's how I kind of make decisions, if that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. And I also track that. Like with my group, I have a map where I put the plays on, and one half is for one play, the other half is for the next, and then I flip to the next page. But I have an initial for each player who's on that play. So each one of them has a letter that signifies who the player is. And then I track the player stat, meaning did they get shot off the break? Did they die in a gunfight? Which is really get shot out of your spot, right? Did you get shot out of your spot? And then did you fail a job or do it correctly? And so I have symbols I use for that. And then whether or not they won or lost the point. And then at the end of the day, I go through each one of those sheets and I have a stat for each player, right? And then I'll put a stat together with these 5 were together, they won this many times. These 5 were together, they won this many times. These 5 were together. So I do it for each player, and then I'll do it for each line that I called.
Right.
And that gives me a better picture of if we're going to make it to Sunday, these are the guys that I'm more than likely going to play. Right. So yeah, man, that's huge. Right. But I also I kind of do that. And then like last year, I didn't really have much help, but this year I'll like hand that sheet to the guy who's helping me, and he'll stat us and I'll be looking at the other team. Right. Because I don't want to watch my guys off the break. I want to watch the other guys. So sometimes I would turn back and be like, 2 guys are dead and I don't know how they got shot. I don't know if they got shot off the break or went there, wrapped, and then got shot. So I'd have to ask them when they got into the pit. Yeah. But that's great, man. That's really good information. Yeah. So go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to interject. That was actually, so in the other pro interview that I did for another organization, that was actually one of the best questions that I thought they asked me. They said, When horn goes off, we break out. What are you paying attention to? I was like, that's a valid question, right? And to your point, I want to watch them, not my guys.
For sure.
Yeah.
Because they're going to change, especially in the pro division. They're going to change.
Oh,
the teams aren't going to do the same thing every time, just like you're not, right? So they're going to make changes. And the more quickly we can pick up and adapt to those changes, the better, right? And I can't do that if I'm watching my own knuckleheads. I know what my guys are supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, like, feel free to say who you were interviewed by and where people can find it. Like, we're not, we want to help. Like, if there's other media things that have done things to help promote you, we want to promote that too. So don't be afraid.
No. And by all means, the only reason I'm not disclosing is because I believe they're still working out what they're going to do. So I just didn't want to, put anything out there. Yeah.
Yeah. No sweat. But when you do those things, like, we want to help too. We want to help people know who you are.
Yeah.
And if they're another media source, we want people to go check them out. All right. So you'll have your whole group together. You mentioned this first week in February. And then again, you're for your layout practice, of course, you'll have everybody there together. We talked a little bit about, kind of what those goals are going to look like. Do you have specific goals for this first event with that pool that I talked about?
Yeah. So again, Sunday, I want to keep that margin at the 500 or better. Specific goals as far as this event is, again, getting over that hump of being consistent, like getting to Sunday consistently, getting through. Really, for us, getting through day one is going to be crucial. Based on the schedule that's come out, it looks like Friday is Infamous and then Damage. And then Saturday is Hurricanes and Ironman. So, I think it's safe to say our first day is going to be tougher, but I personally think that works out perfectly for us. I would much rather draw Infamous and Damage on day one when everyone's still figuring out the layout and getting things situated for how they're going to play it. And B, there's not as much scoutable, which hurts me. I'd love to just break down everything they're doing, but it also plays in our advantage to a degree because they haven't scouted us. So they're not for sure what we're going to bring, and vice versa. So I think that worked out well for us.
Good. That's great. So Tampa Bay Damage, Infamous on day one. What is your record coming out of day one?
I want to say 2-0, but I'll just be fully transparent. 1-1. 2-0 in a perfect scenario. 1-1 is the expectation.
Okay. Okay. And then Saturday, you got Hurricanes. And we all know, right? Like, the Friday paintball is totally different than Saturday, right? Like, the way people start playing the field, and I don't know what time you guys play, but oh no, I do. You're in the exact same pit we're in, or like next to us.
Yeah.
So the way people start playing the field Friday morning, that is not what paintball looks like Saturday morning. That is not what it looks like. So Saturday morning, or Saturday afternoon, you have Canes first and then Ironman?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And what does that look like? What is your record coming out of that?
2-0.
2-0.
2-0. And mind you, I know different season. Our team's a little bit different. Obviously, new coach. Yeah, but I do want to piggyback off of where you kind of left things, with World Cup, right? You guys beat Hurricanes 6-2. I've probably watched that match 5 times already. I'll probably watch it another 20 times between now and Vegas, just to kind of try to get in the mind of Mike Bianca and understand why he does what he does. And also we match up, I think, well against them based on that. So definitely expecting, big things there. And then with the Ironman thing, there is that element of unknown, right? Because they scrap.
Totally.
Yeah. they scrapped. I don't know. I'm new to the division, so I don't want to speak out of turn here, but I will say I feel like it was a little bit extreme what they did. You know, there's a big emphasis year over year of retaining a core, you know, and that's one thing we did really well with the All-Stars was keep a core group together. I feel like I know they brought in the Canadians, Tom Guest, Damian Vasquez is a great, phenomenal player. But I just felt like it was a little extreme instead of kind of phasing maybe some of the older guys out. They kind of just out with all of them. So there's a lot of unknown there, but I think we're going to match up well on that one as well.
Yeah, I mean, I do think you're right, man. You got an opportunity with the Ironmen because it's just going to really – their performance is going to be completely dictated on how quickly they can put it together, right? Now, keep in mind, like Henry Sense and Stephen O'Mara have been playing together for a really long time. You know, they're incredibly talented and also great leaders, understand the division really well. But I do think you have an opportunity there because there's a lot of chaos, right? And so if they don't really have it put together, you got a real good shot there. Yeah, you got a shot. You got a shot.
Yeah, and again, not to take anything away from your Henry Sense and guys like that, like they're established and all that. So I definitely respect that.
Yeah, no, I don't think you don't have to make comments like that. Like you're coaching in the most competitive league, you know, division in the world, right? Like if you don't have the confidence that your group can go out and beat a team that's literally just been put together, then you shouldn't be coaching. Right. Like you should have that confidence. Right. And I think that confidence is going to be critical to your group success. Right. They have to believe that you believe and they need to want to go win for you. Right. As much as they do for themselves, they want to go win for you. So I think you should have those types of aspirations. That's great. The Infamous will be tough. You know, you talk about coming out of that day 1-1. I think day one's going to be tough. I think Infamous is going to be really good, having very few changes in their roster. Damage, of course, is going to be Damage. They're going to be very good. But the other two, maybe, right? Maybe. We'll see. I think that you have a good pool, right? You have a good pool to kind of test things out. The guys know the Hurricanes and Infamous really well. That'll be really helpful.
Yeah.
That'll be really helpful.
Couldn't agree more.
All right. Well, anything you want to add?
Not off tops. I mean, I'd say I do want to give a shout out to Mark Franz for giving me a shot here. I think couldn't appreciate more. I'm extremely grateful for this opportunity. I'm still getting familiarized with the sponsors, but I know Max Sportswear, Lux, and Virtue. Those are some of the big ones that come to mind. So shout out to those guys. Appreciate everything that they do.
Balkan.
There you go. Yep. That's another one. So yeah, shout out to all those guys and Mark for the opportunity. I'm just extremely grateful and blessed to be in this position. I'm excited.
Man, I'm excited for you. They're a wonderful group of young men, and when I heard that you were going to be their coach, I was elated. I was really happy for them and for you. You know, it's always tough to walk away from a group, you know, and I had to make that tough decision. But I'm a fan, right? I want to see those guys do well. I care about each one of those guys individually, and want to see their career continue to develop and move forward. And I'm glad they've got someone at the helm who gives a shit and who's going to work hard to make sure that they have an opportunity to continue that dream. So pretty exciting, man. Pretty exciting.
I'm very, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate the kind words there. And I can tell you from meeting the group, majority of the group down in San Antonio, like you left those guys in a great place. Very respectful group. One of the best, you know, most respectful groups that I've been around. So I thought really that you did a stand-up job as far as really getting those guys to a great place. And I mean, you made my life easier on that front. So I appreciate it.
Well, they're maybe the nicest guys in paintball, which is also like a problem. You know, I'm like, you guys got to be a little meaner. You got to be a little meaner. Yeah,
Logan's got a little. He's got a little bit of that in him. I can see it. But
Logan's
I agree
fiery.
with you. Very nice group. And very respectful group. Like that was one thing that jumped out at me right when I got there. Like they're just incredibly respectful guys. So, and I think that's an ode to them as well as yourself. So,
yeah, they want direction. They want to be coached, you know. So there's a lot of like, yes, sir, and yeah, no problem. Like they're just really kind of into whatever. You know, you tell them to go do something, they'll go do it. They'll try it. They're a good group, and you've got a lot of guys who've got still a ton of upside. So future should be bright, my friend.
Yeah, very excited about it.
Thanks for taking the time. If you'll hang out in the green room, we can visit a little bit after. And yeah, man, thanks a lot and good luck.
Sounds good. Thank you, Ryan.
You bet. All right. Well, that was exciting. That was fun. So next week we have Travis Szymanski, who's we're going to redo the show from last week that we didn't get done. So Travis Szymanski will be on next week, and I have all your questions saved from our social media posts. Again, thank you so much to Major League Paintball, Jake Jones, all the crew that helps us put all this nonsense out for you guys. Please, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Mike and I do go back and check. And as always, like and subscribe to the page. Thanks for listening. Be responsible.
You know what that is? Discipline. Selfish.
No joke. We're legitimate.
Fucking do this. Then do it. Do it 100% because I'm trying to.
We recognize that we are limitless.
You got to be a champion, become a champion, right? Winning is a habit because we create habits that lead to